saw that there's someone else in there.
Yeah, there's one else.
Is there 4 or 5?
Piece of paper.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll do it. So the $200 one first. Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're about to announce the winners of the social media competition. We've had a lot of applicants, some really awesome, amazing social media posts, and the images are about to come up on the screen of the winners. But the first prize, and the winner of a $200 voucher from Trellies, is Troy Woolley with the post Happy Kids. Troy, come on up. Is Troy on his way? Troy might be having a cigarette break outside. Oh, we'll move on.
Well, that's one for me.
Second prize, Murray Crab Fishing Journal. Murray Crab Fishing. This guy looks like... You've won a $100 voucher at Trellies. Also winning a $100 voucher is Rebecca Clemenga. Chasing the Dream is her social media post. Rebecca? Are you Rebecca? Be in the photo.
Oh, you've got to have your photo taken again. You're looking handsome enough. Okay. Thank you. Good luck.
Well done.
Spending it.
And our fourth and final winner is Ben Ross on Trying to Upsize Fish. You've won a $100 trolley voucher as well. Come on down, Ben.
Well done. Got to have your photo taken. That's the... And you can't cover me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to see if this person's here again?
Is Troy Woolley back at all? Troy won the $200 Happy Kids snap? No? We'll find him. We'll find him.
Okay.
That's it for the moment.
Go ahead. Do you want to do that?
Did you want to do the...
You just told them like before though that you were going to do it in 5 minutes. Yes.
That's because that was the instructions at the time.
Okay. Have you got... Yeah. Truck down. Maybe I'll take that so we can...
Okay. I'd like to invite our guest speakers to come back up. Just letting everybody know that the raffle, we're going to select the winners at the end of the day. The reason being is the prizes are all the stage. So if we do it now, you'll come and take your prizes and we won't actually have anywhere for our guest speakers to come and sit and answer your questions. Hope that's okay. If it is, then I'd love to invite our recreational fishing guest speakers to come up and be part of a Q&A session. Let's welcome back Bill, John, Kate. Welcome back Karen, Caitlin, Bill, Ben, John. And just remember, we've come up with the new rule. If you don't like any of the questions we're asking at the moment, just yell out any new ones and we'll accept any questions from everybody else. I think we've got the first question here. The question's from Regan. Any tips on how to use the side scan correctly and down scan correctly? Who'd like to take that? Bill?
Scan and down scan.
That's right.
Well, set it up right. It's probably more in the interpretation of what you're looking at. So most sounders, the side and down scan is automatic, plug and play. So the hardest thing I found was just learning to see and understand what you're looking at. So what would you think about that, Thomas?
Is this on? Yeah. No, 100% completely agree. But definitely just playing with your range, definitely as well. And trying to get the right frequency, because obviously the lower the frequency is better for deeper water, higher the frequency, better for shallower. You get less clutter, cleaner picture. And speed is a big thing too. If you go too quick, you can miss stuff, but if you go too slow, images get really dragged out and get real blurry. So you'll find a happy medium. Probably walking pace is probably the best, I've found.
Yeah, slower the better. You'll find on side scan that your fish are going to come up more as, well, let's say white dots. So they're not going to be the same look as what they are on a traditional sonar. But your down scan, you can actually, with say Lowrance, you can actually mimic the system so they actually arch up the same as they're on sounder. But as I said, with side scan, you're looking more for smudges, dots, and in better circumstances, they actually will picture up a little bit like fish themselves. Mainly, especially so if you're looking at barramundi. But with Murray cod, I found Murray cod in conclusion just very difficult to actually pick up on side scan.
Yeah, no, spot on there, same thing. Cod probably show a bit more like a grain of rice sort of looking thing, that sort of shape. But barrow, as you said, like you can see the fins a bit better, and scope forehead, you can actually pick up the fins, especially in a perfect world scenario. For argument's sake, would probably be that you're scanning along that 3-4 metres of water, and about 10 metres off to the side, you'd see a metre cod will show up high definition because he's pretty close to the boat. He's not too far away. And again, like if you can actually tell just on side image how high he's off the bottom as well, because the side image casts a shadow off the back side of the fish, and the further away the shadow is the higher the fish is off the bottom. So the closer it is, obviously, the closer it is to the bottom.
Fantastic. Thank you. Hopefully that answers your question, Regan. Our next question is specifically for you, Kate. Will you still fish with no moon? You mentioned the use of moonlight to see the trees as markers. So if there's no moon, do you still go fishing?
I definitely do. I personally love fishing with a full moon. I haven't found, I know everyone's got a different opinion on this, but I haven't found that the moon has really affected my fishing at Eildon. I've caught fish on full moon and no moon at all, and half moon and everything else. If there's no moon though, obviously it makes it a lot more difficult to see, so that's when your homework during the daylight hours is more important. So make sure you know exactly where you're going, and you can even map out a bit of a track as well on your sonar, so then as you're going along you're not looking for the trees and dodging things like that. So yeah, definitely still go fishing with no moon, and as Thomas said as well, sometimes we don't always get the luxury of picking the perfect weather and moon and pressure and everything else, and if you're going to do tournament fishing as well, it's good to just go out when you get a chance. So yeah, definitely.
No, that's great. And that was an excellent question from Nikki. Our next question is from Shane, and it's for you, John. What are your favourite baits for clear water cod?
Favourite places for clear water cod?
The favourite baits for
Sorry?
clear water cod. Baits.
Bait for
Type of
bait
bait.
fishing, yeah. I sort of look at it a bit like this. It took me about 50 years to find the places that I fish, and I think most of you would be lucky if you find them in 30. But I don't really think it matters where my favourite places are. I believe there's cod in a lot of rivers. They're in the King River, they're in the Ovens River, they're in the Upper Goulburn, they're in the Big River. And there's holes in all those rivers. Even if you want to go back further to central Victoria, in the Campaspe above Epilogue, it's still clear water and there's still good cod in there. So it's just a matter of you've got to get out, have a go, find your own spot. You get a few tips, and along the way, generally the best tips you'll get are from local people, which is, fairly common knowledge. So that's about all I can really say about it.
And any particular bait?
Sorry?
Any
Bait?
advice about any particular bait?
Well, again, your bait is dependent. It seems to be dependent on area. Some places the yabbies are my favourite. Other places that the old barty grub. But then there's places where barty grubs just won't work. And once upon a time, I believe they worked everywhere. But the easy one to keep alive is chicken. You don't have to keep it, wet and in a bag or everything else like you do yabbies. You don't have to do the work you've got to do with barty grubs as far as blanching them or stopping them turning into moths or anything like that. So chicken's a nice, easy one to start with. So that's probably the easy start. You can have chicken in the back of my ute for a week. Yeah, it might smell a fair bit, but I reckon the cod seem to like that.
No, that's great. Thanks, John. Our next question is for you, Thomas, and this is from an anonymous person. What made you think about putting 2 swim baits on at once, and how did you go casting them?
I just want to do something different. As I was telling about, trying to think about outside the box. If it's a fish that's maybe been encountered before or something, just doing something that's completely wrong. Because I didn't see too much of it get done ever. Like, I've been starting to throw this thing called an umbrella rig or an A-rig, getting it from the States. It's pretty much just a dredge bar, so it's a series of wires coming off with screw locks on it, twist locks, where you can put on plastics, obviously going through the regulations and the number of hooks allowed. I was running them without hooks, just pretty much creating a bait ball, and then there's a piece of wire down the guts of it sitting probably 6 or 8 inches back where you can attach any sort of lure. And again, creating that bait ball and predator effect. Imagine like a trout chasing a little ball of reddies or minnows around, and I've even caught yellow belly on swim baits because of that, and plenty of trout still trying to eat the little plastics coming off the rig itself. But like, as for casting it, definitely give it a big cast, but you've got to feather it just so it lays properly and sits in the water a bit better, so you don't end up with a bit of a mess. Sometimes the rear treble or whatever can loop around and catch on your main line, but definitely just tension a bit or give it a half turn, tighten up on your cast control so you can give it a big hard whip, but at the same time sort of lays out. So, yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Our next question is from Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous, and is from each of you. We'll start with you, Karen. Can you please stand up and measure out your personal best in regards to Murray cod for the audience to see?
Do I have to stand up, do I?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Let's go. 85 at my whaler a couple of years ago. So, yeah.
Excellent. Ben? 115. Not bad.
Mine's 80-ish. Well, I got one on Thursday night off the surface. It was about 80-ish. Didn't take brag mate with me, but...
Okay.
That's better than
Have
mine,
you seen the Moala show I did with ARB? That big. on an 85 millet. That was easily my best cod.
Thomas?
It would be that fish I showed you before, so like, I don't know, 132, so it's, I don't know, about...
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't
No,
know.
that's good. Kate?
The biggest one that I've got so far is 113.
Impressive. Caitlin?
Don't really want to go after either of those, but 112.
John?
122. But what I just want to say on the size, it's fabulous to catch a big cod, but it's about this catching a cod. Probably the best cod I ever caught, I was 13 years old, and I'll never forget it to the day I die, and it was £2. And back in those days, we didn't measure them. So, you know, a part of it's catching a big cod, but the important thing is going out and having a go, and you know, it might be your first best, might be 58. That's just amazing. It's just fantastic to get out and do that. So let's keep at it.
It's good advice, John. Our next question is from Elaine, and it's for you, Kate. How many rods do you take on a night session, and what's on them?
So I'll normally have 2 rods set up and a third one ready to go if I need. But as I said in the talk, normally a bigger profile swim bait, something a little bit smaller, and on the third rod, something just a bit different. So if you throw in the 2 and you're not getting a reaction that you want, if you've got something a bit unusual on the third one ready to go. So I typically, if I'm going to Eildon, especially in the middle of winter, on one rod I'll have something big like a Gigantula or a Italian or something like that, and also like a 10-inch mag draft, so a big soft plastic on another one, and then on the other rod just something a bit smaller, a Chibital or a Rapala X Pedo or something like that.
That's right. The next question is from Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous, and it's addressed to the captain. Not sure who that is. Captain, how much do you consider lunar cycle, barometric pressure, moon phase, etc., when choosing when to fish?
Like I said before, if I've got the day free, I'm going fishing. But if I'm sort of like trying to plan a trip, or say, you know, I'm going away for a week, and I'm trying to look at those sort of factors, one of my textbook scenarios probably would be either moon, new or full. I just fish slightly different to the way the other one is, obviously being a bright night or full dark blackout night. But either moon, probably absolute prime would be those 4 days or so leading up to, and then those couple of days after. So give it a day or two after, also like 3 before and maybe a day or 2 after. That'd be my absolute pick. So if it was the moon phase was on a Thursday, I'd be looking at probably rocking up to the place, say Tuesday or Monday, and then fish till maybe like Sunday. So perfect world scenario, yeah, having that moon phase, yeah, halfway through the week.
No, that's great. I hope everybody's taking lots of notes here. There's lots of great tips and advice coming through here. Next question is for you, Bill. It's from Ava. What colour spinnerbaits are the best colour to catch cod?
I use probably black and red, black and purple, and green. Be the main 3 that go to.
Excellent. Ben, what are your thoughts on using clips or tying direct?
Well, I think it's a matter of preference. I use clips because I'm lazy, and because I already fish a very short leader anyway, because my knots are too chunky. But for the light guides that I'm using, but I think, you know, clips. A lot of the tournament fishing is about keeping your lure in the water for as long as possible, because you don't catch a fish while you're, you know, out of the water. So it's little shortcut techniques like that. I can change a lure very quickly. I don't have to retie a trace later on after I've changed lures. So that's why I use clips, and I don't think it makes that much difference in terms of when I'm fishing heavy structure, the clip playing a part in snagging or, you know, things like that. So if your knots are good, it's a good option. But and if you like, you know, having 50 lures to fish in a day, sometimes it's not about the fish, it's about fishing the different techniques as well. So you want to be able to change and things like that. But yeah, certainly lure clips are good. Just have the right rating. Don't put a 10-pound lure clip on. Put a 70-pound.
That's great. Thanks, Ben. Kate, this person who's anonymous is new to Eildon and fishing. So what area would you suggest they concentrate to get the big fish in the boat? If you're happy to share.
I actually get this question a lot. So the main thing is, as I said in my talk as well, is that, and Thomas said too, is pick an area and pick it apart. The first few times, or probably more than that we went to Eildon, it's really overwhelming, just the size of the place. So we'd fish one area and then you wouldn't have any success, so then you'd zip right across the other side of the lake and fish that area and then not have any success, and then drive the other side of the lake and still not have any success. So you don't have to go far from the boat ramp. Find a spot that looks really fishy, use your sonar, check it out and be confident fishing it. Like the areas that I fish, I know every snag, every tree. I know the area really, really well. You'll get some nights that you'll go there and there's just not a lot of activity. That's fine. Go to your backup area or the third place that you've sort of scoped out beforehand. You don't have to go far. So just pick an area that you think may be holding fish and spend the time in it, and you should be successful.
That's great. We've got excellent questions coming in. Next question is from Stephen for you, John. What are the best baits and rigs for big Murray cod?
I use a single paternoster rig. I don't use any leaders. The reason I don't use leaders when you're bait fishing, if I go trolling with a lure, I'll put a leader on, but with bait fishing, the cod's not looking at the colour of your line. It's smelling it's actually smelling the bait that you're presenting to them. They don't seem to care about it. Over the last 4 or 5 years, I've probably removed 70 or 80 litres out of fish that have been broken off. I just see a leader when you're bait fishing as a way to lose a fish. That's the only rigs I use, but I have been with a lot of friends that just use a running sinker straight onto the hook, and they seem just as successful as what I am. So, you know, that's about all I really know about the rigs. It's just the only one I use.
That's great advice. Thanks very much. Next question is from Wendy and Graham, and it's for you, Bill. Is it okay to use scent on the spinners for the cod? And what would you suggest? I saw garlic on your slide.
When you get desperate, use anything, I guess. Obviously, I don't think it hurts to use scent. I don't think it's a negative. I don't know that it's, in all cases, necessarily a positive. But, you know, there's lots of different scents around the place too. There's obviously S Factor. There's probably lots and lots out of the States. Generally speaking, they reckon in fresh water, a garlic-based scent is the best across the board, whether it's smallmouth or largemouth bass in America or whether it's native fish here in Australia. That's probably all I'd go into. Some days I'm fishing with Mick Caulfield and we'll be on a bit of a go-to with scent, and then other times not. Don't know. I haven't seen. Hard to say it's going to make any difference or not. With other species, definitely. Not so sure about cod.
Right, interesting.
Oh, well, especially with lures, because, you know, sometimes it's going to be a reaction bite. Sometimes if it's surface lure, you know, it's a bit different. If you're fishing slow, soft plastics to cod, which not a lot of us do, maybe we should, then I think scent-based plastics could be good. But with other forms of lures, could be useful, but not critical.
Great, thanks, Bill. Our next question is from Dylan, and it's for you, Thomas and Kate. If you had to choose one lure and one style of bank to fish in Eildon, what would it be and why?
Probably one.
Okay.
If you were forced to choose one.
I would choose a Mega Bass Battalion, and a bank or an area that I'd choose would be a point leading into an inlet. That's what I'd fish.
Depending on time of year, but say like right now, if I was going out there, a 1 ounce spinnerbait, big single Colorado blade on it. Colour wouldn't be too fast, but I'll be looking at working probably that 4 to 8 metres of water, getting down to the bottom, keeping it probably that bottom metre and a half. That'd be like the best thing through the heat and through the middle of the day. But yeah, bit of timber, scattered timber is always good. Holds the bait a bit more, and more than those like barren banks, a bit more hit and miss, like with low light time and that. But during the heat of the day, the bait sort of sticks a bit more to those scattered banks with a bit of scattered timber. So yeah.
That was great, thank you. Next question comes from Steve, and it's to all members of the panel. We'll start with you again, Karen. What's the weirdest bait you've caught a cod on? Egg, sausage?
To be honest, I don't go out fishing with bait very often. I'm very much a lure dedicated fisho, but we have used sausage and cabana every now and again.
Cabana.
So, yeah, not very often, but yeah, that's one.
Ben?
I don't really fish bait either, but I did make a surface lure out of a thong that caught a cod.
That's very helpful.
Oh, we do
Shay?
a little bit of bait fishing, but probably just cheese, yabby. Yeah, I haven't really caught anything bizarre on it.
Bill?
I'm not sure what the question was.
What's the weirdest type of bait you've ever used
I
to
thought
catch
it might
cod?
have been that. I don't know. I think Murray. I think the fellow who was here from the Arthur Rylah Institute earlier. I've forgotten his name. Jason. Ample evidence that Murray cod will eat anything. They're pretty amazing creatures. Absolutely gazetted that a big Murray cod can actually not eat for 18 months. And I've certainly witnessed Murray cod in our fish tanks at work when we put them in. The longest they went for before they ate was 9 months, and no noticeable difference in their condition at all. Just amazing. So, yeah, I dare say they just about eat anything. I once saw a water dragon get eaten in the deep creek.
Really? Thomas?
I have caught on a crumb calamari ring. Don't ask.
It was a while ago now, but I have caught a cod off a hot chip. And we do talk about cod eating anything, and I believe that one of my friends has a dam that has some really healthy cod in it, and only yesterday she messaged me with a photo of her beautiful little French bulldog with a very red face because it was drinking from the dam and got hit by a Murray cod.
I've actually never bait fished for cod, but I did have one take a floating crankbait off the surface. As in, I had cast it out, it plopped on the surface, and it struck it from beneath. So it's probably as close as it gets.
John?
I only use standard bait, so I haven't tried anything, but I know off the botels at the back of Jews Creek, they quite regularly catch cod on chops and steak and bacon and ham, and basically I think cod acquire a taste like where might acquire a taste for red wine. On the back of the botels, they have the barbie, they throw the stuff over the edge, the leftovers, and over a period of time, it's become the cod's favourite food. So as we've heard, you can catch cod in anything, but it comes down to a little bit of the area you're in as well. Where I fish, I don't use bats, but there's a hell of a lot of bats there, and I'm sure that they'd go all right.
Chris, I've just got a story to add to that one. We had a customer of ours come in the other day. He was swimming across the river to get his lure, and it buffed his hand. Came up and buffed him, and he's got, cod arm virtually from it.
Oh, that's a great story. We've got a question here for you, John, from James. Do you recommend fishing in the one spot for many years or multiple spots regularly?
That depends on where you are. If I'm in a river where there's small holes that are only, basically room to fish, maybe with 2 rods, and that's it. You only need to spend 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 25 minutes to half an hour there, and then jump to the next spot. But as soon as you get back into a bigger hole that might be 40 or 50 metres long, 2 or 3 metres deep, I'll sit there all day. And as I said, in 2021, I came up with this stupid idea that I was going to catch a monster cod every time I fished. And on the 21st day, I got broken off. So, but that, I think it was 41 or 42 days before I actually didn't get a bite for the day. Most of those days I sat in one spot all day. I move my bait around the hole, but my chair doesn't move. I'm pretty relaxed, and you know, I don't like to exercise too much, so it's...
No, that's terrific. Well, thank you very much, panel members. If you give everyone a round of applause, thank you very much for your time. Something like that. That was fantastic. Next, we're going to hear from, we've got another Q&A panel, I believe, with Victorian Fisheries Authority staff. Up you come, please. Just so you know, I've still got 30 seconds. Oh, that's what? Yeah, I was on time, perfect. Yep. Well, thanks very much, VFA colleagues, for coming up, along with Jason from ARI. We've got a few questions here for you. This is a question for you, Anthony. Will there be an open day at the hatchery?
When it's finished? No, we've had a couple of events. We had a ministerial event last week. We had a local stakeholder tour shortly after that. And when we finished our hatchery building, which is probably going to be about September, and it's ready to go, then I would propose to VFA that we have a really big opening, presuming COVID's under control at that point, and get as many people as we can to come out for an opening event. And I'd like to do that every year at least. I think it's such a great place, and I think you'd really appreciate it.
Sorry, can I just add something to that as well? And look, just credit to Anthony and to all of you in the room for where we're at. We've got a hatchery at Snobs Creek, and now we've got our first new hatchery for native fish in Victoria in 70 years. And we wouldn't have got the funding to build this new hatchery without the support of all you in the room and all the people that love cod and native fishing. And as part of the new hatchery at Arcadia, it's not only going to make us self-sufficient in terms of our ability in the future to continue to stock and breed cod, yellows, silvers, catfish and others, and make sure that our rivers and our lakes are the best. The visitor centre that we're building there, we've also got an eye to people who camp on the river and want to go out there. So there's going to be free barbecues at the visitor centre. There will be hot showers, hot and cold showers that will be free and available for people to come off the river and go there anytime to be able to have a hot shower and toilets and enjoy that. So, it's all about making sure that we are creating an environment where we're getting more people out fishing, people want to experience fishing and really returning to you the things that you support and are really important in terms of fishing. But well done to Anthony and all the team on Arcadia. It's incredible.
So what I just heard then was Travis saying he's going to come up a couple of days earlier, catch a really big Murray cod and cook us all a barbecue at this open day, which I look forward to that. Thanks, Trav. We've got a question here from an anonymous person, and this is for you, Trav. Where are we up to with a new boat ramp access for Goulburn here at Shepparton?
I did get a heads up there was going to be a couple on boats. So the Goulburn at Shepparton, so where we're at currently, Catherine Greck and her team, they're assessing the tenders and we're commissioning design work for a new ramp at Shepparton this week, and we're aiming for public consultation on the design of the new ramp in April and May. And Chris, I'm going to jump into a couple of others. So that's in Shepparton, and one of the other things we're looking at working with Parks Victoria on a new ramp at Murchison as well, on the Goulburn River there, to really open up and activate some parts of this river of the Goulburn River that are just iconic fisheries. And Karen was telling me about a metre cod that was caught off the surface in Murchison in the last week. So, just right on our doorstep, we just have these incredible fisheries. And I suppose just a shout out to people who fish Eildon. If you're getting into your cod fishing, and Eildon can be a really tough beast to tame in terms of, getting your first big cod there, to take someone along just to the Goulburn River, just here, or the Ovens, or the Loddon, or the Capaspy, I'm sure I'm not alone in saying, for me, it was where I cut my teeth on lure fishing for cod, and I think it presents probably less challenges at times than sort of big impoundment waterways. So certainly, I'd encourage people to go and have a crack at some of these rivers. Sorry, Chris. The second one was, how long will ramp works at Bullen-Merri take? So people that want to go and chase Chinooks and Browns at Bullen-Merri, letting everyone know that that's approximately 12 weeks for a new ramp to be built at Bullen-Merri. It's not cod country, but it's still good fishing, and work start on that tomorrow. And also, are there any plans to increase water levels for launching boats at Lake Lonsdale? And Rob Lights and a few others here will know Lake Lonsdale very well. It is a cracking ready fishery. Murray Burns will know it very well. Cracking ready fishery, full of yabbies as well. Unfortunately, we don't have sort of the power or the control over what water goes into which waterways. We can advocate, and I know that VR Fish do a really fantastic job of advocating on that, but in terms of whether or not Lonsdale, which is over near the Grampians, will get more water, it's not one that is sort of a little bit out of our wheelhouse from the VFA point of view. So there's just a couple that came through, Chris.
No, that's okay. I'm just giving the IT guy a moment at the back to get rid of the boating-related questions I was about to ask next. We've got a question here from Greg Sharp from Lynch. What career guidance can you offer a 9-year-old who wants to pursue a career as a fisheries officer? Wow.
Greg actually passes on his apologies, but environmental science, work experience in natural resources is a really good start. Obviously places like Snobs Creek offer a work experience program as well, but even retail type recreational fishing, trolleys, things like that, where you're talking with stakeholders and getting understanding of fishing and the gear types and methods, all that sort of thing. But generally environmental science, environmental degree is a really big benefit for going into a compliance type career in fisheries.
Perfect, thanks Gus. We've got a question here for Corey from Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous. We would love some more info on the lake. When will your study be released?
That's a good question. So as I said, the study's just begun. We're doing some more tagging in the next couple of weeks. And then in about 6 months' time, I'll go and check the receivers, the listening stations that are all up and down the river and in the Goulburn Arm. And with that data, then we'll start processing that. And it'll be released via socials and on our website, and even possibly coming to do some talks at some keen fishing clubs and whatnot. So that's going to be in the future, and periodically for 6 months for the next 1.5, 2 years. So yeah, look forward to seeing what all the data tells to get some of that information passed on to the fishers out there.
Terrific.
Sorry, can I just add on to that as well? And sorry, the people make a terrible mistake when they give me a microphone, but I'll go back to Bill Classon's point earlier about cod, and the prevalence of cod in the 80s. And, we used to go up to Jamison in the 80s and it was only trout, like sort of from Jamison up to Kevington was only trout. It's still there's still trout up there. There's not as many as there used to be with the changing temperatures in the water. But, now, you hear these stories of how great a fishery, in the 30s and the 40s, the Delatite and the Upper Goulburn were for cod and Macquarie perch and others. And we are living through this amazing time where we're starting to see that come back and it return to that. So these big holes that people used to drift a mud-eye into for trout or flicker a pala or a fly, and these big holes are now holding 2 or 3 metre cod in them in clear water. And it's not something that we were seeing sort of 20 or 30 years ago. And I think we're really, really fortunate where we're at now that our children and our relatives and our friends are going to experience that in those waters. So yeah. And Corey's research is going to tell us where they move and what they do and what they eat and where to catch them.
Thanks, Trav. Keep your microphone on. I may as well ask you the next question. Is as much effort being put into habitat rehabilitation as stocking, given that if the habitat is sorted, the fish will probably sort themselves out too? That's a question from Peter.
Yeah, look, and Peter, I love this question. It's Fantastic one. And every time we do a survey of rec fishers in Victoria, there are three things that they want. They want more habitat for fishing, they want more fish being stocked, and they want better compliance or more compliance. So they want more people like Gus Strongman and our fisheries officers. So compliance, habitat and stocking are the top three that come up every time. And we're really lucky in Victoria. We've got extensive land care networks that are doing really good work. We've got catchment management authorities doing really good work. And we've got VR fish who are advocating out there continually in terms of habitat improvement and making sure that we've got the right environmental flows, we've got the right water going in, we've got the right timber and structure. And then on top of that, you've got the Native Fish Australia team who are here today and the Australian Trout Foundation that are working arm in arm on restoring habitat in waterways. So again, there are some great examples. If you look at the delatite above Mansfield, that part of the river, like 30 years ago was denuded. It was basically cow paddocks on both sides. It was silted up and probably less than half a foot thick. You look at that stretch of river now, it's been completely rehabilitated, standing timber on both sides, native vegged, really lovely little bends, really lovely holes, and it's seeing a really strong recovery in native fish and also a good trout fishery there. So habitat is critical to what we do. There are some other states that think that we can turn the clock back to 1788 and we don't need to stock fish because if we just get the habitat right, it'll work. But we do need to stock fish. We do need to understand that some of our waterways are altered. We do need to give the fish a helping hand. We can't remove entirely carp or redfin or other species that might be predating on them. So good habitat, good fish stocking, good controls, bag and size limits and gear, and really strong support from fishers like all of you here today is what has contributed to the fisheries we've got.
Can I just add one little thing? I think you covered it really well. But the argument was fix the rivers or stock. You can't do both. I think the reality is that we need to do both. But the river restoration is the long game. It will take a long, long time, a lot of resources, a lot of concerted effort to achieve that. And why wouldn't we stock alongside it? Because I think what's happening is you're getting synergy between river restoration, more snags, removing barriers to fish movement and stocking so that as the habitat starts to recover, there are fish in the system that can benefit and kick off. When I mean kick off, natural breeding, like we've got in the Ovens River, which is by far the best cod fishery we've got in the state.
No, great, thanks, Anthony. We've got an anonymous question here for you, Adele. What is the best net to use to help protect the fish, cod specifically?
At what size?
You tell us.
Well, my experience is with either one end of the spectrum or the other. So working with the babies or the broodstock. You definitely want to have as smooth a surface as possible. So something that's not going to rub against the fish. So the plastic or the silicone nets like this one here, this green-handled net, are really, really good for fish because they're less likely to remove scales, which then open the fish up to infection even once after you've released them. So.
Great, thank you. I think this question's for Brian Mottram, who doesn't appear to be on the stage, so I think it's going to be directed to you, Travis. When is the native fish rescue going to take place at Greens Lake?
Yeah, I think we're kicking off next week with that. So people that may be familiar with Greens Lake near Stanhope, it has been decommissioned as part of a water recovery program with the Murray-Darling Basin, which wasn't very popular with a lot of fishers. And many people remember when McCollum was decommissioned and we lost a lot of natives at that time. We're going to try and prevent that happening with Greens Lake near Stanhope. So we're working with Golden Murray Water and with DELP next week to try and get some support in there and to start removing some of the cod and the yellers from Greens Lake and putting the yellers into Waranga Basin. And what we're trying to do also is replicate the camping that was available at Greens Lake at Waranga Basin so people can go to Waranga and camp like they used to at Greens Lake. We're not going to put the cod into Waranga because some people are a bit concerned about what that might do to their ready fishery there. So we're going to put the yellers into Waranga and the cod will probably become broodstock for us or part of our Arcadia fish pondage fish out. But we certainly will be trying to rescue as many cod, if not as many cod and yellows, if not all of them, out of Greens Lake, which one part of the lake is down to 10 centimetres now, and another part of it's about 2 metres. So massive shout out to Anthony Wilson from the VFA, who was out there last week and did a terrific job, Anthony, in really flying a drone over the lake and seeing how it was going and making sure that we were all set to get in there and rescue those fish.
Thanks, Trav. Our next question is from James, and he asks you, Jason, will climate change affect the fish?
There's no doubt that any sort of change in the environment affects fish and affects different species. So it's a very broad-ranging question. But I did mention in my talk that if it does become drier, the natural recruitment of Murray cod may be impacted in some of those rivers if they stop flowing.
I'm going to do an add-on to that. And I'd be really interested for other people's views on this. I heard a while ago that cod will breed in years when there's not flooding in the red gums. So they'll just breed anyway, but that the flooding in the red gums really triggers the yellow belly and the silvers, but that cod will just breed each year. Or do cod really need that flooding to occur to get breeding going?
Cod will breed each and every year, but it's how successful those eggs are and the larvae survive is where the difference comes in. So cod will, if you've got cod in your own dam, they'll breed in there every year, but they may not have fingerlings or they grow into adults each year. And that's where the flows come important, and often it's not so much just that flooding year that Trav's talking about, it's sometimes a year after that some of the fish benefit the most. Because the flooding the year before puts them into great condition, they feed up on everything, so they've got better resources to have more bigger, stronger eggs, which enhance the survival the year later. And it also opens up the floodplains, which opens up all that plankton that someone talked about, I think it was Corey. It was Adele, sorry. Anthony, someone, yeah, but all the plankton, which all the young fish eat. So the flooding can do that, and then if that drains back into the river, they've got all that extra resource, extra food to eat to help them grow.
I've got a follow-up question for you then. Is using cheese as bait bad for cod?
I've heard this mentioned lots of times, but I've got no hard evidence of it. We've caught cod before that you could see that people have had cheese for bait, because sometimes they regurgitate it or it's coming out the other end when you're measuring and processing. But I've had no hard evidence of it blocking them up like people have talked about.
I'll do a follow on that. Gus, you do hundreds of inspections every week. What would be the top 5 baits you would see people using for Murray cod?
That depends largely on where we're working, but impoundment's generally lure fishing, rivers, shrimp, yabbies, cheese, chicken, but we haven't seen any impacts that we can pinpoint to cheese being a contributor to ill health in cod at this stage.
Anthony, what are you doing about bird predator control at Arcadia?
We have plans.
Don't say bang.
We have plans in place to put some bird netting across our plankton ponds. We don't need them for our brood ponds, but our 20 plankton ponds would benefit from bird netting, and we've gone out and looked at different products and costs, etc. We're going to finish the hatchery. That's our first priority. Finish all the buildings in the hatchery, and then we'll look at what's left over, and if we can, we'll put some bird netting. We're in the fortunate position, there's a lot of water around at the moment, and the cormorants, which are our arch enemy, seem to be quite dispersed across the landscape. But if that flips around and conditions get dry, then yeah, we could be in for some challenging times, unless we put bird netting in. So it's a really good question.
Travis, will you ever stock the Yarra River in areas around suburban Melbourne to bring fishing to the suburbs?
Oh, it's a wonderful question, and a lot of people would know that the Yarra River is one of our best cod and macquarie perch fisheries, like in Victoria. It is an incredible fishery, and for a city of almost 5 million people and a river running straight through it, it's amazing how that river does what it does. And I sort of put it down to the fact it's quite a natural flow, but the other thing about the Yarra is, for a lot of the Yarra from about really Fairfield as you head back up. It has quite strong riparian protection on both sides of it, so a lot of the river has really good native veg on, but it's often much more than what you'll find in some of our country areas. So we know that it's got a really good population of Murray cod that was translocated out of the king parrot many years ago, Macquarie perch. We've seen bass turn up in the Yarra River. The up stretches of the Yarra River have a really great population of brown trout. It's got blackfish in there. Tim Kermey will be able to list about 30 other species that you can catch out of there. For us, we don't want to tinker with the Yarra too much, to be honest. It has this one of probably only 2 robust populations of Macquarie perch left anywhere, with the Mitter at Dart and the Yarra. And so, we appreciate the fact that it's a really good fishery with a translocated population. But without us tinkering with it, it's very healthy and continuing to support those populations. So we'll probably leave it be.
Great, thanks, Trav. This is the last question we're going to ask each of you to answer, and we'd ask you to go last, Travis, just as we only have 11 minutes left of this session. What do you see as your number one priority or wish in the near future? Gus, do you want to kick us off?
From my perspective, I'd like to see more families obviously involved in recreational fishing. Victoria's never seen better fisheries, and that's through obviously the things we've identified today. We're privileged to live in this current climate where recreational fishing is available to all people. One of our greatest satisfactions is seeing mum, dads and kids obviously out and about participating and enjoying recreational fishing.
Great. Adele?
Any wish, anything I want. Fantastic. All right. I suppose an increased infrastructure at Snobs Creek to really crack the code, as I was talking about earlier, about endangered and threatened species. Macquarie perch are just one species that we're interested in looking at, and we're partnering with DELP on hopefully working towards a lot of other species, but that would be my wish, is that we could see that come to fruition in the future.
Great, thanks, Adele. Jason, if you had one wish, what would it be? What would you like to see in the future?
Probably what Adele mentioned on regarding the threatened species, so I'll talk about the trout cod. We've done really well recovering it back into the Ovens River, but on a whole, it's still very low compared to what it was historically. Let's get it established into other areas, and then with the pipe dream of Trav opening it up to be a recreational fishery.
Anthony?
Challenging question. There's so many options. I mean, I think we need to better invest in river health, first and foremost, and that's not an easy thing to do. We don't manage rivers, we don't manage water, we just manage the fish that go in it and do a little bit around the edges. I'd like to see the community stand up for rivers more and push back on some of the economic-driven elements which are undermining the health of the river.
That's terrific. We'll come back to you, Trav. Corey?
I'd like to see more education and science occur in our community. I think more and more that we see the communities evolve and their interest in fisheries, the more they want to see about the science and the data. And with that, they get more of an appreciation of what a fishery is or what a fishery is worth to not only themselves but also their family and their community. So I think more science gives not only more information for those fisheries to be managed sustainably, but it also provides people with providing more or giving them more power, making informed decisions of how to look after their fish, because it's all of your fish. So that's what I'd like to see.
No, excellent. From my selfish point of view, I'd love to see a lot more money come in. I think the Andrews Labor government's given us a lot of money more recently, and it's been terrific to spend that money on improving angler access, recreational fishing reefs, boat ramps, new fish hatcheries, etc., etc. So from my perspective, more money. Just keep giving us more money, and that comes down to you and your advocacy with political parties. Travis? What's your one wish?
And really, mine's a really easy one, and it's maintaining what we have now, like this connection that we have between your Fisheries Authority, a supportive board, and you've got Gail here as the board chair. It's pretty unique across Australia. I mean, we are one of the few states in Australia that has a standalone fisheries minister, that has a standalone authority that's dedicated to fishing, and that we have this connection with all of us as fishers and lovers of fishing and the economic and mental and physical health benefits we've got out of it, maintaining this and moving forward together. And I know that sounds very airy-fairy and wobbly and all the rest of that, but it is something that, and if you look at who we are and how we operate, in terms of fishers and an organisation from interstate, people are really envious of what we have and what we're able to achieve together. And it's fantastic the respect that our fisheries officers have from fishers and the relationship that people like Adele have in their breeding and really trying to crack the code on Macquarie perch, and that, like, we're all in this together and we're all building towards, continuing to make even better fisheries in Victoria. So it's maintaining this, what we have. And Pato, I think we've got some questions down here, mate.
I can't actually see, but if you've got any questions, yes, yell out, sir.
When all these rivers are stocked up, will we have to start stocking with food to feed them?
I reckon that's a really good question. Okay, so, I mean, one of the questions is... So it was... I'll repeat it. So the gentleman in front said, when we're stocking all these rivers, will we need to put food in there to support all the fish that we're putting into these rivers? It's a really good question, because one of the questions that's come up historically is how many is too many fish to stock, and when do you start to notice that you've overstocked, depending upon whether or not you're seeing stunted fish or fish without food. So to come to your question, what we found with a number of different waterways where we stock is that what we're actually doing is we're displacing some of the invasive species that have been dominant in those waterways. So particularly rivers like the Loddon, the Campaspe, the Goulburn, the Ovens, we're not seeing the yellow belly or the cod or the silver perch. We're not seeing them stunt and become overpopulated, but what we're seeing is less carp and less smaller redfin in those waterways. So they're utilising some of those invasive species as a food source. And what we're hoping for, and we won't know this yet, but what we're hoping for, as we continue to build what we're doing, they're going to be replaced by small-bodied native fish, gudgeon, galaxids, smelt, that used to populate those waterways, that together with the shrimp and the yabbies are going to create a really healthy ecosystem that will naturally support the ongoing breeding of those fish. And it may be that when we get to that point, that we can switch some of our fish stocking more into impoundments than we do with some of our rivers. But we're on a journey there, and certainly I would suggest that what we're all seeing when we're fishing at the moment is that that's pretty successful.
On another aspect of that, Trav alluded to it, he only mentioned the carp virus earlier on. One of the questions that we've had earlier, if all the carp are removed and the Murray cod are eating the carp, what are they going to eat? But what will actually happen is what Trav said, all those other smaller native species that are being impacted by carp and other stuff now, they'll come back to their natural abundances, and the system will hopefully turn around to how it was, closer to natural than what it is now. So they should all cycle through and build up in numbers.
Terrific. Well, thank you very much. That's it from our VFA and ARI employees. Really appreciate you coming up and answering your questions. I'd now like to invite Gail Owen, the chair of the VFA board, to come up and pull out 45 raffle tickets, because we have 45 prizes up here. And if your name gets called out first, please come up and grab an item. I'll rephrase that. You'll be told which item you've won and which item to come and collect. I thought it would be like a first impression. Do you need me to do anything?
I don't think so, no. Okay, everyone's paying attention. This first one is for one of these directors' chairs, and it's number E30, sort of a pale green. Come and choose your chair. It's a COSI director's chair. Is that a COSI? Is this a COSI director? No. Yep. Oh, they seem to be distinguished differently here. Okay.
You go down. You go down.
That's the wrong colour. Sorry, the wrong colour. It's the green.
Green E30 here.
Yeah, the green E30. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Or sort of bluey green. No, because they're different colours. Yep, they match. All right, now for a rod, we'll go for a try and find a different colour. This is orange 08, E08, and it's an orange, orangey brown. Have you got a pen? I might give those to you so you can match them. All right. And again, green, E03, and this is another director's chair. Green, E03. Oh, great. Green again, E25, and this is for a rod. And a hat this time, orange, E02. It's the hat. Got anyone with that number? E02. Orange, E02. Draw another one. All right, in that case, since E28, green, for the hat.
It's now a used hat.
And a rod, this time, orange, E54. Orange.
Orange E54. Yep.
Yep. And orange again, 04 for a lure. And green, E23 for a rod. And orange, E65, is a travel mug. And green, E85, is a rod. Okay, and orange, number one, a director's chair. And orange,
EO1 orange?
yes, is the director's chair?
Yeah. Is anyone coming to collect it?
No?
E01 orange.
Orange number one. Redraw, okay, well, green, E17 gets the director's chair. No? Gee, third time lucky. Well, I've called that, no one's coming for that.
Green E17.
Oh, gee, it nearly got redrawn. I think they're all E's, aren't they? I think they're all E's. Probably. Seem to be. All right, orange, E6 for allure. And green E79 for a tackle box. Green E79. Yep. And green again, E21 is a rod. And orange, E62, is a tumbler.
Oh, not Kelly.
And E31, orange, is a hat. And orange again, E18, is a director's chair. Okay. Sorry, what? Good try. Okay, green. Green 56 is a lure. And orange 49 is a tackle box. Orange 49. Oh yes, here we come. E78 green is a director's chair. Green 78. Yes. And green 81 is a hat. Green 81. Yes. Green again, number 70, is a net. Green 70.
No green 70?
No green 70. All right, we'll have orange E39. And green 04 is a hat. Green?
Green 04?
Yes.
Can you just call it out? I don't think no one's coming out.
No, no one with green 04. All right, green 22. Nobody wants a hat?
And make sure it's green.
Is it green? Right, green 08 is a lure. Green 08. Yes, there we are. And orange 38 is another hat. Orange 38 is a hat. And green E19 is a lure. E19, green. Oh no, no, orange E10. Orange E10. Yes, we have a winner. Green E14 is a tumbler. Green 14. Yep. And green 34 is a net. Green 34. Yes. And green 26. Green 26 is a hat. Orange 41, a tumbler. Green E29 is a bottle. And green E5 is a hat. 05, green. No? Oh, no, here we are. Green 33 is a lure. Green 33.
Can we give it to the person who came up before the colour?
No. Green 07. Yep.
The back there.
At the back.
Oh, sorry, that one. Yeah, that one. The lure. Yes, you need a ticket.
Orange 48 is a lure. Orange 48. No, it's a lure. The next one's a mug. We got that one? Yes. Green 11 is a mug.
I don't know. It is now.
Yep. Orange E66 is a lure. E66, orange? Yes. And E10, green, another lure. Green 10, E10. Yes, up the back. Orange 12 is a bottle.
Oh, no. We've got it a sequence somewhere there.
A Rambler bottle, it says. Lure bottle.
Bottle?
Have we got a Yeti bottle? I've still got a bottle and a lure and a lure.
That's right. Go next one. Lure. We do a lure.
That's the 12.
So that was 12.
And the next one is green E58, which is another lure. Is that right?
Yep.
And then we're down to the plants, is that right?
Yep, that's right.
You got a winner?
Plants, is the win.
All right. The next one is orange E68, and that's a plant.
Two plants.
Oh, two plants, is it?
One.
Oh, two plants.
Two plants.
Okay.
Oh, actually, they might want to choose them.
Oh.
Mightn't they?
want to come up and choose which plants you like?
That's E68. That's him, I think. Okay, and green, E40. 2 more plants. E40 green. Yes, here comes someone. Someone coming. E40. E40. And green E67. Green E67. No? All right. Orange 35.
Orange 35.
Orange 35, yep. Audio. And green 36. Green 36. Yep, right up the back.
Green 36.
Yeah, the man up the back there, I think. And last one is... Yeah, he's up the back. Yeah.
Redraw?
Oh, okay. Orange 61. And this one's the last one. Green 81. Green 81. All right. This is the third last call. Bit like Nellie Melba.
No.
Is orange 13. Lucky 13. Can't have more than 3 last calls, surely. No one's got orange E13? Oh, yes. Where's Chris?
Delivering the plan.
Oh, okay. All right, well, that brings that draw to a close. And I think, Chris, it's now for you to do the final close.
Thanks, Carl.
Thanks, Gail. That was terrific. And in case you don't know about it, there will be a prize for anybody who hasn't won a prize. It's a bit later on the way out. I'd like to introduce Brian Mottram, the Director of Recreational Fishing Projects, to come up and give his Codference reflections. Brian.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone. I know we're getting late in the day, so I'll keep that in mind as we go through. And yeah, look, it's an honour to be asked to do the reflections. I've seen some others, and Gus and Yorick Piper and other board members do the reflections in the past years. And when, you know, virtually mention everyone, oh, surely you don't have to do that. And then there today, when I'm thinking about it, who do you leave out? It's just such a great program, and what we've been able to cover today is just amazing. And it's, as others have said, it's just great to see people here. Like, see the faces, the table's full. It's just fantastic. Just to take you back to the start of the day, hopefully you heard the connection from Uncle Cole and his welcome to it, you know, his country here, Yorta Yorta. It's a real special connection. The VFA really value that, so we'll continue to work with Yorta Yorta in many ways going forward. We then heard from Gail Owen and Travis Dowling, our chair and our CEO. And I know I work for the VFA, but you can certainly hear the commitment from Gail and Travis, and you know, our connection with our stakeholders is really important to us. So thank you for continuing to work with us. And we're open to suggestions. As you know, we're not afraid to, if we're doing something or we can do it better, please let us know. And Gail and Travis certainly show us that. The other key thing I got out of that was the benefits of our current management will be seen for many years ahead. 10, 15 years, I think that's what Travis said. It'll be at least that. We then heard from Anthony Forster. The passion in Anthony's voice, the green and gold that he talked about is just, fantastic. He just loves those fish. It really shines through. Anthony's mentioned 3 key goals: native fish recovery, build better fisheries, grow fishing tourism. And he shows those in the work he does. We then heard from Catherine Gretsch from Better Boating Victoria. BBV and VFA have been together about 12 months. Catherine described it as the perfect marriage. And Catherine told us about some cod access that's coming. And, we all value being able to get out on the water and target these magnificent fish. And I also noted that Catherine said, seeing people boating makes Catherine happy. Made a special note of that. We then heard from Adele Moyes in our fish production team. Adele's our production manager at Snobs Creek and has been producing Macquarie perch this year. Second year having a crack at them. It's not easy and it comes with a lot of pressure. There's a lot of expectations with Macquarie perch. We want to do a fantastic job of it. And Adele's doing a great job leading that, and I think that's certainly come out again, that word passion. I'm lucky I get to see the challenges and the satisfaction that on Adele's and the other staff's face at Snobs Creek and within our team. And it's not all smooth sailing, and there were some big days there. So again, Adele and the team, thanks for your work there, and thanks for presenting today. Adele's talk was shared with Shay Bloom, and there's certainly no shortage of passion there. Shay shared her story with the bushfire. She lived it, she breathed it. She had a family there with her. They saw the bad and the ugly, and then the mission that followed, and being able to stock 15,000 Macquarie perch. Certainly well done, Shay. Thank you. We then heard from Corey. Corey talked about tag and Murray cod in the upper parts of Lake Eildon. And I suppose the things I noted there, Corey going to measure the temperature, the depth and the acceleration. So it'd be interesting to see the results. And the acceleration of the fish, I presume, is what you're talking about there. So how much you've got to hold on. So it also showed through the fact that you're working closely with anglers, and we really value anglers' input into the science. So science and anglers working together will just continue to learn from each other and with each other. Just a reminder, also heard from Greg Sharp, Sharpie. One thing I learned about Sharpie today, I didn't know he'd fished all over the world. So he's been with fisheries and our predecessors 30 or 40 years, and he's fished everywhere, but he reflected on how we have great fisheries here in our backyard. So we'll keep that in mind, and when we are travelling, that we don't always have to travel too far to get some of the best fishing in the world. Also noted compliance is good. People love their Murray cod, so I think that's a real credit to ourselves and to the people out here. And if you do see anything you're not sure about, call 13FISH. The number's on the rec guide. It'll be on your app if you use the app. It's on the back of our calendars, so use that number if you need to. We then heard from Jace talking about Jace Lesky from ARI, and we work closely with ARI, as you would have heard today and over the years, assessing the potential of Epilock being open as a year-round fishery. So probably a couple of things out of your talk, Jace, was small cod habits carry through as they grow. So when I'm at the hatchery and watching the small cod, I'm going to take a bit more notice in future times, because the more we can learn about them, the better. But watching where they head straight away and in and out under snags is really important. And stocking fish into good habitat, which is something we want to keep doing better, and we'll continue to learn how we can do that bit better. Also heard about the amount of reddies there, so it's a real opportunity for them cod to grow quick, I think. So that was really the VFA type presentations. Then anglers, the exciting part, the after morning tea session. And Kate kicked that off, and Kate let us know to be organised. So, hooking on the boat at last minute because you've got a couple of hours and having the floor covered in stuff, whatever's been thrown in there, isn't the way to do it. It's be organised, have a clear deck, and be ready to net the fish if you need to. Having that close by so it's not, underneath something, which I heard can happen in some boats. Kate's got the runs on the board. She's 5 fish over 1 metre in 6 weeks. That's not bad, I suppose. Well done. We then learned from Thomas, similar things, be prepared. Yep, look at the barometer, look at the moon, look at everything else. But if you got time, get out there and give it crap, I think were his words. So thanks, Thomas. Keep that in mind. And the other thing, I think really shining out with Thomas, he looked after a fish for 2 hours to ensure it survived. So dedication just shows the care for the fish. So well done on that. And it didn't get any different after that with John Fife. Fifey, 13 out of 14 people you've taken fish in have caught their metre fish. It's not a bad strike rate, so we'll keep that in mind. Also use metal rod holders, so yep, we'll be looking for those metal ones rather than those wooden ones. Benny Scullen talked about spinning bait skills, spit that out. And then your 4 key points: casting, accurate casting, rod tip control, and lure retrieval speed, meaning slow as you possibly can. So I'm sure we'll discuss that over the next 12 months at different spots. Bill Klassen, not sure if Bill's still here or he's gone to add to his tackle box collection, but 200 tackle boxes, I think I heard Bill say. So not too bad. I bet you they're all full too. And the other thing, Bill, I think to remember, we didn't always have these fantastic Murray cod fisheries that we have now. So we keep that in mind, that we want to continue to improve things, but we're in a pretty good space, and to perhaps try a suspending spin bait. And our last presentation was from the Worth with Karen and Caitlin. So Worth, nearly 4 years old, it's flown in some ways, and but really achieved a lot. And 1,000 people in the last 12 months, so 1,000 on top of 3,000, that's a lot more anyway. I was going to work out percentages, is it 33 or is that a 50%? Anyway, increase. I was good at maths at school. But anyway, Worth has a real sense of connection. And the other thing Caitlin says after, in amongst her key points was teach your wife to fish. There's lots of benefits, which I noted down a few of those. That's the summary of the day. So I got a few key learnings out of that. And I think passion is everywhere. The VFA, and when I say VFA, I mean BBV, VFA, ARI, the government agencies, we work together in that space. We're always looking to do things better. Our staff are very passionate and proud of what we do and how we do it, but we're always open to discussion and new ideas. So, yep, and that's you people are here today doing that with us. That's great. The passion's in the anglers. That's why you're here. The anglers love. Like the questions were just fantastic. Talking about habitat, talking about stocking, talking about lakes that are being drained, etc. You care what's happening. And the passion's in Worth as well. And they're just to name a few. The passion's everywhere. But what Worth want to achieve in the next 12 months is just terrific. The other key learning: we all care for fish at all ages and situations, whether we're breeding them, growing them, stocking them, with the habitat, catching them, we care for the fish. The other key learning, as I mentioned before, when going fishing, be organised. So, yep, I am going to have to clean out the boat a little bit better, I think. Not that that's going to change too much, but anyway, we'll give it a go. Fish whenever you can and enjoy. So therefore, my mission, and I'm going to put this on my performance plan, is in the next 12 months is to catch a 1 metre Murray cod, and I'm going to beat Karen Ruiz to doing this. So if I get to November, Fifey, expect a call. Thank you.
Well, that's it, everybody. Thank you very much for coming along. Really appreciate your attendance. Really appreciate you not throwing any bottles at me or any of my bad jokes. Just wanted to say a quick shout out and a big thank you to Millie, Lauren, the two Belindas, Julie, Mike, and any of the other VFA staff that have come along today to help set up the event. It's been run really, really well. If you're still hungry, there's going to be afternoon tea and the opportunity to mingle with VFA staff. Come and ask us any questions you might like. There's a vacant director's job going at the VFA, so Travis would be happy to field any questions along those lines. But otherwise, yeah, mingle and come and see some of the stands. Thanks very much. It's great to see you.